that we talked for too long.
What did we talk for too long?
Well, we were an hour and a half last
Oh,
week.
you mean before the show or during the show?
No, the whole show.
Well, that's true.
Got a lot to say.
We do have a lot to say. We don't talk golf.
We don't get paid.
Yeah, that's true too.
That's the bad part.
Yeah, I know. We'll get there.
It's fun. It's fun for me. Stuff I was doing anyways, so and I'm just talking about it for an hour.
Yeah, I know. It's the same thing with me. I put all this research together during the week. But Jan's right. There's definitely the main goal down the road. Hopefully not too far down the road.
Yeah, we should have been betting on this. We would have made a fortune.
Yeah, we are. Let's see. We are now, if everybody took all of our bets and used our system, and again, in case everybody doesn't know our system is pretty basic. As you can see, I'll pop it up here on the screen, our picks. And you can see by the picks, we got our numbers. $100, 70, 50, 40, 20, 210. So that totals up to $300. So it's $300 per person. It's $900 a week. If you do exactly those picks, keeping in mind there are some duplicates, but if you just did those picks every week, you would be right now up $2,130. That's not bad.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I actually do. I actually do bet all the picks I make on the show. I don't.
I know. So
I don't exactly follow our point system. I don't bet as much.
Yeah.
So I haven't made quite as much as that would imply, but it's been a pretty good season so far.
Who do you bet with?
There's like 4 sports books that are legal in New York State. There might be more, but there's 4 that I have. So I have all those apps. It's DraftKings, FanDuel, MGM, and Caesars. And then you can just you can look at all 4 and just see who has the best odds for a guy you want to bet. Someone might be 40-1 on one site, and they might be 50-1 on another site. So you obviously bet them it's a 50-1.
Yeah, I use Bovada, and they're up there. The reason I like Bovada, they may not be as big as there's a few other like really big ones, but they're pretty cool because you can do so many things. Like I could parlay the PGA Tour with the European Tour. I could parlay a PGA Tour event with a NASCAR event.
That's dangerous.
Yeah, well, of course, but it also gives you an opportunity if you're low on funds to say, you know what? All right, I'll just throw a couple of bucks here, and I can, you can put like $1 on a parlay on both events and make like $500 if you hit the right one. Not that you're ever going to do that very often.
You need to bet. We're doing pretty well.
Yeah, we are. We're doing well. So
I think we need to bet because I do all this work and not gamble and bet on it.
Yeah, well, as Jared said, I'm the same way. I bet on everything. All the picks that we give everybody, we spend our own money on. We're not telling people to spend money on our picks, and we don't do the same thing.
Having a golfer in the mix on Sunday that you have money on is very fun. That's what I say. Like it's for me, it's worth the entertainment alone, even if I don't win. Just having that rush of every shot mattering for your guy on a Sunday is fun.
Yeah, I guess that's true. It's like when you play, it's better when you bet.
Speaking of Sunday on the PGA Tour, nice segue. Did you ever watch that? Jan, you're old enough. I know. Jared, I don't think you are. Did you ever see a show called? I think it was called Joker's Wild.
Yeah.
Okay, and what you loved about that show is you had to spin the wheel, and then you would hear the guy go, Joker, Joker, Joker. So what we had on Sunday was choker, choker, choker. I mean, chokers, not only on the PGA Tour. We'll get into Lexi Thompson a little bit later on, but the PGA Tour, it's like nobody wanted to win this thing. I don't know what's up with Xander. It's not like it's like Xander. I think the way he was playing. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jan. I just looked like Xander was playing not to win. He was like just, all right. I'll put the ball. I'm just gonna put it like safely on every green, and I'm not really concerned with birdies as much as not making bogeys. And it almost cost them. And as far as Theegala, we've seen this before. I mean, in Phoenix, and it's like he didn't learn his lesson.
Well, I mean, I think Xander all year I watched him physically play a couple of events this year, and he didn't have, he used to stride with pretty good confidence. I mean, how we always talk about the intimidation factor. He looked very careful, like what you're saying. I mean, he was leaning on his caddy going, what do you think we should do this? I mean, I remember when he first came on tour, he would just stand up there and rip it. And so I think he was being so careful when he had the big lead that he blew it. And it wasn't playing the way you should when you're leading. I mean, he really did look, like you said, like he was going to lose.
Wasn't it interesting that the best shot he made all day was while he was sitting there for 20 minutes watching Theegala choke up the entire tournament. So he knew, all the pressure's off. I can take a shot. So as soon as the pressure all came off, he gets a perfect shot 5 feet to the hole, and he was able to knock that in and hit a birdie. But watching Theegala, what was your feeling, Jared, watching Theegala and even hearing the back and forth with the caddy? And didn't you just get a feeling that just something bad was going to happen?
Yeah, well, I thought he deserved to win because I'm with you, Greg. I thought Xander was playing not to lose on Sunday. He just looked uncomfortable out there to me. Theegala was playing to win. He was attacking pins. He was making putts. I don't know. To me, I don't know what was hitting driver on 18 the bad decision. Was that kind of what cost him? I think that might have been the bad decision. And to me, once he saw that ball in the bunker on 18, he should have just been playing for bogey. And that probably meant just, hitting it out back into the fairway. That might have been even tough too, because I don't know if he had a stance where that ball was, but
yeah,
I think he should have been playing for bogey. Make Xander make that birdie to beat you. Xander, to me, more likely than not, probably pars that 18th hole if Theegala makes bogey.
Probably.
Yeah, but I like that kid. I think he's going to win plenty. The shot in Phoenix to win in the water on 17, that was just a bad bounce. That was a great tee ball. Kind of kicked left into the water. So
yeah,
go ahead, Jan.
Shot. But I took him. I think he's ready to win. I mean, he's had an amazing junior career. And I mean, I'm not crazy about his golf swing. He has that big dip, but he's, people that have had that good long a career as an amateur, that they know usually how to win. They've been in those situations and they're used to being nervous. He's the type that's going to win from behind, and then it'll open the floodgates like it did with Scottie Scheffler.
The only thing that I didn't like about Theegala in Phoenix was, and I hear what you're saying as far as the bad bounce, but I think Cantlay was before that, and I forget who else was before that, and it might have been Scheffler, but you had a couple of the guys that were in contention, and what they both did was they were like, if I have a bad bounce, if I don't, if I have a bad shot, I'm going to make sure it goes to the right. And they all bailed out the smart way. Theegala bailed out the wrong way.
Yeah, he was aggressive. You can't miss it left, because even if you miss it right, you're going to make 4.
Yeah. So I mean, it sounds like it's more mental mistakes for him, in those 2 tournaments, just hitting the wrong shots rather than physical stuff. Yeah.
Well, Jan,
he's a good putter and he hits a ball a mile. So
Jan, what did you think about the first shot in the bunker? Because when I was looking at the first shot compared to the second shot, and when he was asked about it, he said basically what I got out of it was that it wasn't like he did anything different. It just turned out different. And when I looked at the replay, it looked like he was more off balance the first shot.
Well, I think, like Jared said, I think he didn't have a great lie with his stance. And at that stage, then you probably, okay, I've made a mistake. All I need is a bogey. You want to avoid the double, because then that's 2 times in a row he's blown it on the last hole. So I would have figured out a way to get it on the green.
Okay, now the other player that, boy, I mean, what in the world was the deal with Cantlay on Sunday? I mean, we've talked about this year, that there's something off on his game. He's not been able to close. We talked about him not closing in Phoenix. We talked about him not closing at RBC Heritage against Spieth. And now this was worse. I mean, he just went out there from the beginning to the end on Sunday and was he was like one of the worst golfers out there on Sunday. There is something psychologically wrong with Patrick Cantlay right now.
Yeah, he hit some shots on Sunday that I would have been embarrassed to hit. He was missing wedges 20 yards left. So strange. I mean, I can't imagine that's nerves though. He's been in the mix. I just think he happened to have a bad day.
You're being nice
on a Sunday in contention. I don't know. I'm curious to get Jan's take on that.
Well, I mean, let's face it. When he did that playoff with Bryson. I mean, he should have lost every hole, and he scrambled. He looked confident. He matched him shot for shot, and it's that intimidation, confidence factor, and he's playing timidly. It's really amazing. And then for him to hit one out of bounds, I mean, I think his golf swing's beautiful, but I don't know whether, to Greg's point, whether he's trying to get longer because he's not one of the long hitters.
Oh.
And look, it's just the same as Jordan. I mean, the golf courses are set up to favor long hitters. And whether he's thinking to get back in that top 5 or something, I'm going to have to gain another 20 yards, and then that messes up your golf swing.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine what else it is, because like you said, he's the nerves part of it. It is a confidence and then the nerves. Once you lose your confidence, it's really hard to pretend to feel like you're not rattled by it, but it definitely does. When he hit that shot out of bounds, I mean, Xander got really lucky because he hit it out of bounds and it kicked back.
Yep.
But number one, the cut path shouldn't be there on that hole to the left. But for Cantlay to do that after Xander did that, is that you don't have control of your ball. So was he trying to hit it too hard to get his distance? I just don't. I think it's got to be something. I mean, the mental part of it, no question, is there now. But is it physically because he's trying to get longer?
Yeah, maybe it's one of the things we'll find out in a couple of years.
Yeah, it's not like he's having a bad season overall, though. He's had some good finishes. He's had really good rounds. It's just the consistency hasn't been there for him. But in the past, he's been one of the more consistent players.
Exactly.
I feel like
he was always somebody that you would take if it was like last week.
Yeah, but like Jan said, when you lose that confidence, it's hard to gain it back again, and he's just gonna have to fight through it. The great ones do. He's got the talent. He's still very young, and I'm sure he will. So it's just a matter of getting it through that next time he does it again. Then maybe we'll see the very best of Patrick Cantlay the rest of his career. Another thing I wanted to talk about, and then segue over to the LPGA. And don't forget, we have the sections on the bottom of the screen. So we're going to outline exactly the topics when we preview the events and so forth. So if you have a favorite part of the show, you can check that out. But what I wanted to talk about was the slow play, because it was funny. I think it was Thursday or Friday. I'm looking at it's Scheffler, Spieth, and Zach Johnson. And I'm just looking at Scheffler's body language and Jordan Spieth as they're waiting for Zach. Zach is taking, like, I'm not even exaggerating, 2 minutes and that's a long time, to decide when to line up the putt properly. He does the lineup thing, and then he steps back out. And then doesn't that drive you crazy, Jan? I mean,
I hate slow play. I absolutely hate slow play, but it's become a big issue. It's a big issue on the LPGA Tour. I know that for sure. I mean, Lexi, but they don't penalize you 2 shots. Now it's just a fine, because she got a big fine because she's pretty slow too. But I don't know why he was doing that. I mean, Jordan's not a fast player.
He's not fast either.
He's pretty slow too. But once they get, I don't know, were they ever on the clock? I didn't see that, because if you're on the clock,
no.
I mean, once you get on the clock, there's specific rules. That's when you'll make the caddy walk slower, because, or the caddy will get there fast and let you walk slow, because they start timing you from the moment the player gets to the ball. And then, there's a whole bunch of different rules, and you've got so many seconds. You've only got 30 seconds by the time you're ready to hit the shot. And they're pretty tight on all of those rules. But Zach's not.
So they're 30 seconds from the time. So when does that mean? The time? What? That he's
from when you're ready when it's your turn to hit and you're ready, which means you've gotten to the ball, got your yardage. Then the 30 seconds.
Zach
starts.
Johnson had like 90 seconds, no question. He went way over that.
And he didn't get 2 shots? I wonder if he got
hear
penalized.
No, I didn't. Nobody said anything. No.
Wow.
And
it is pretty slow out there. I mean, it's really slow. As I've said to you a million times, in the majors, the first 2 days are so slow.
Yeah.
It's pitiful.
And then I also, I talk about one of those LPGA situations. Let's go back to Theegala, because here's the thing I don't understand. We've talked about this before, Jan. I forget who was on the green, who his playing partner was. Okay, that person's on the green, that's spending whatever, a couple minutes getting ready. That person is now done. Now, Theegala, who's way, I don't know, 100, 200 yards away from the player, he now goes into the bunker and starts talking to his caddy. Why can't they do that while the player is on the green taking care of his business?
They should. They should have already figured out what they're going to do.
It drives me crazy. I'm like, what, now? Now you want to talk about everything? You could.
I know. I mean, I don't understand. Unless he didn't want to have to. I mean, you really should be prepared. And then there might have been 2 or 3 different discussions. I mean,
sure was.
I was shocked how much Xander was talking to his caddy and fiddling. Do you think it's going to do this? Do you think it's going to do that? I mean, you've played practice rounds. You've played the golf course a million times. You shouldn't be leading on your caddy.
And then we segue to, did you notice, Jan? I don't know how much you were able to watch, considering I know you were there, but I forget which. I don't know if you saw it too, Jared, but there was a hole. I think it was the 16th hole on Saturday, when they put the clock up and said Inji Chung had spent like 26 minutes on the hole.
Wow.
She wasn't even done yet. She must have spent over a half hour on the 16th hole on Saturday.
How many shots did she take?
That was like one of her, I think it was a par 5. I think she doubled.
Yeah. Well, the problem is, I mean, I think the LPGA play slower than the men. Usually they lean on their caddies, and a lot of them are very deliberate. I'm surprised that Lexi has gotten so slow. I watched a lot of it.
That was Inji Chun, but yeah, Lexi has been getting
But
slow
Lexi
too.
she got penalized for slow play on Sunday and Saturday, so she must be really slow. I mean, I watched her on the green, and she was very slow. When she got to her tee shot, she was okay. But I don't know what they're trying to do. I mean, like I said, we've had a million practice rounds. You know the golf course. Everything's mapped out for you. I don't understand. I think it makes you more nervous if you take longer. So I just think, you're not going to change your golf swing. You've got to figure out the shot and hit it. And when they do that, I just think it makes you way more nervous.
Yes. I mean, isn't that the case for the putting? I mean, I think I was watching Chun specifically because she was taking so long in that hole, and I was she's on the putt. I see her standing there looking at the putt. Had to be for about close to 7, 8 seconds, 10 seconds. I'm like, what are you doing? Taking that long, looking at a ball on the ground.
I was surprised she took so long on her 3-footer on the very last hole to win. I mean, that's usually not a good sign if you're standing there for so long, but I mean, I don't want to generalize, but those Asians are very deliberate. They are so used to doing that over and over and over, and they're great at repeating over and over and over. Yep. I was surprised she took so long on that last putt, and even lining up the long putts took forever to look at it from every side, and I mean, and sit over it for so long. It actually takes, I mean, I know she was nervous, but it takes that anticipation away if you're doing that.
Yep. And then again, Lexi Thompson, another. I mean, she is clearly the player on the LPGA Tour that is having the biggest issues when it comes to whatever you want to call it, nerves, choking. I don't know what it is, but you tell me what is going on in Lexi Thompson's head that she can't finish the job, especially in these big events.
Well, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Phil. When you lean on your putter that much under pressure, what they say is you live by the putter, you die by the putter. So when I watched her play, she did not hit the ball that well. She made, early on, the first couple of rounds, she made some great putts. So for you to say, people will keep saying, the last couple of holes she putted awful. But think of all the putts she made early. Now, yes, under pressure, I think her stroke, I know her stroke changes rhythm-wise. It gets very short and quick. It kind of reminds me of Zalatoris. You know how his gets real short and he takes it inside and shot. Her putting stroke changes when she gets under pressure, and we've seen it over the years. I mean, she hits a big hook and it hits the ball so far, so much further than everybody else. But I wonder how much the reason she has to make so many putts is because she's saving herself from her tee to green play. So I just wonder if she let go a little bit of power and had more control of her shots. Like I watched her hit a couple of drives, and she was 50 yards past Shabuna, who she was playing with on Thursday. and Friday. And I'm like, wow, that's a lot to carry the ball for, because Shibuno doesn't hit it short. But she started on the right edge of the fairway and it finished up on the left edge. It's a big hook to it. So I wonder if she got more square, would she hit it shorter? Yes. But would she have control? Then maybe then she'd still be long, but maybe she wouldn't then have to be relying on her putter so much.
You were there. What did you think about the golf course, the setup, and just overall the tournament?
Well, I mean, everybody was excited. The golf course was immaculate. I mean, I don't like the changes they made to the golf course. I liked it more the traditional way it was when Rory won, but it still was in spectacular condition. They did notice that there were some things once they saw the play that they're going to have to change. Some of the design of the bunkers, the severity of it made it really, because I think they made it too hard, because if it was hard for them, how hard is it for members? The first day they set it up too long after they'd had the rain. And because all the players I talked to said before they teed it up that the course played really long and it was firm. And then when it rained Thursday morning, Chum got off to an amazing start.
Yeah.
But out of the 9 birdies she had, 6 of them were with a hybrid or longer. So she had a hybrid or a 5-wood in and made birdies because she was hitting it close and making great putts. And that's why she got off to a 6 or 7 shot lead right off the bat, and even more. So then they shortened the course so people could catch her, and they should have kept it at that, but they started to sneak it back again as it dried out. I think it would have been better and closer if they'd have kept it shorter to make more birdies.
So that's normal thing on any tour is you're going to redesign the golf course as the event is happening to make sure, or to try to do your best that it's not a runaway.
Well, no, it's just the setup is a very important part of it. I mean, every week you talk to the staff about it, but this was set up by PGA, not LPGA.
Okay, yeah.
So that makes a big difference because they know how far some of the girls hit it, but when they do that, they eliminate half the field, and they do that a lot with PGA too. We talk about that, how, I know when Kevin and I used to say, well, I've got no shot this week because they just set it up for the long hitters. And so when you do that, it takes half the field out.
All right. Also, Padraig Harrington won the U.S. Senior Open. It's been a while since Padraig's won a big event.
Yeah, talk about choking. He choked coming down the stretch too. He almost gave it away.
Yeah, he did. Steve Stricker made a nice little comeback there, tried to steal it, but Harrington held on for the win. And by the way, I'm not sure if anybody saw this on Sunday morning, but that was a really nice playoff win by Haotong Li over Thomas Pieters, who has, and I've mentioned him several times on our major shows because he's really played well this year. It's nice to see Thomas Pieters playing good golf again. But Haotong Li won in a playoff. He had a big lead he was winning the entire event, and then he loses the lead, and they go to the playoff, and just the shots that were made by Li, it was incredible. He made some just bad shots, and then he made this putt at the end that on the playoff hole that was just I think it was like 30 feet. And Pieters, instead of going over a putt that he thought could have been for the win, and worst case, let's go to another playoff hole, he now, I think, was like a 10-foot putt for the tie, and he couldn't do it. And Haotong Li, I mean, he just bowled over, and because it's been a while, because when he blasted on the scene years ago, there was a lot of expectations for him, and I can imagine the pressure in China about Haotong Li. So it's nice to see that he's victorious again. So 1st Jan. What do you think?
Oh,
about
no,
that?
there's no question. I mean, the Asians, they keep saying, oh, there's so many Asians on the women's tour, but they're coming on the PGA tour too. So, I mean, he's been hanging around, and like you said, I mean, the pressure for them to do well. I mean, I don't know how Matsuyama ever does well because he has, 30 media with him everywhere he goes, following him. And the same thing in Asia, the Koreans and the Chinese, especially a PGA pro. I think it's huge for him to do that. So, and it's going to, the good thing is that it's going to make golf even more popular in China.
And how long has it been since you've wagered on Haotong Li, Jared?
I'm not sure I've ever put money on house soccer. Yeah, he had a hot stretch for us. He actually said, he kind of admitted he was thinking about quitting golf pretty recently just because he has been struggling so badly. And did you see his interview after the win? He said something like, it's just effing golf. It's so effing hard. He dropped a couple F-bombs on
No
on
way,
TV.
I love it.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
All right, so it's time to talk about this week. And before we talk PGA, just a couple of things. Remind everybody that there's 2 other events going on around the world. You've got the LIV Tour that's in Portland. So if anybody cares about that, you do have Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, Patrick Reed, Bryson DeChambeau, and the rest of them. So this is you got some major champs playing every week or every time that the LIV Tour plays. I guess they play every few weeks. So this is in Portland. Have you ever played on this golf course that they're playing in Portland, Jan? I mean, where are they playing?
We had a Women's Open there one year. It's a great golf course. It's really, but you know what? It's pretty tight. Okay. So it'll be interesting to see how they set it up. I mean, they can obviously set it up long, but it doesn't have as many trees as typically they do when you play in Portland and Seattle, but it played long. So it'll be interesting to see how. I think Brooks will probably have a pretty good, between the 3 they've got, you got Brooks and Dustin and Bryson. So they'll be able to bomb it out there. It'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, I actually put a few bucks on Schwartzel because I just figured, you know what, I wouldn't be surprised if he actually won again. This is such a small field to choose from. There's only like about 10 players that can win. You would think. You would at this stage, but I don't know. There's some that want to prove something, but I think it's going to be either Dustin or Brooks. I don't think Bryson's ready yet again since his injury. No Bryson, no. Okay, and the Irish Open is this week. No, I'm shocked that Rory's not playing in the Irish Open. Now, I don't know if he's missed this.
He's not?
No. I'm not sure if he's missed this the last few years, but I'm not sure why Rory. So Rory decided to play in the Travelers. I mean, excuse me, this past week's event.
Right.
And then Travelers, yeah. And then not play at the Irish Open, I guess, especially since he's going over there anyway to play in the Open Championship in a few weeks. That surprises me. There's got to be a reason.
Is he playing the Scottish?
No, me and Greg were talking before the show. I don't know if you've heard of this, Jan. It's called the JP McManus Pro-Am. It's in Ireland on Monday and Tuesday of this coming week, and a ton of the top players.
So that's in Ireland too.
That's in Ireland. Yep, Tiger's playing, and that's like Tiger's tune-up before the British Open.
Yeah, huge appearance fees to play in that.
Yeah, so it's Rory, JT, Cam Smith, Spieth, and it's an awesome field. I hope we can bet on it.
That's true. You should be able to, because you've been able to bet in Britain forever on golf, but they get paid enormous fees for that. And maybe he said to the Irish Open, "Hey, I want $100,000 to come," and they went no, and he went, "Okay, I'm not going to do it." Because he's getting 100 to go play in the other one.
Wow. All right. Well, I wonder how the fans think about that in Ireland. Okay, so.
Well, and plus he's played a lot. I'm surprised he's played as many as I didn't think he'd play. Well, he had to defend in Canada, but I didn't think he'd play the Travelers. I mean, when did he last play? He played the one after that, right?
Yeah, last week.
Yeah, so I'm shocked he's played that many in a row. It's rare.
That's what I thought. I figured, well, if you're not going to, why wouldn't you just skip the Travelers and go to, unless he had to with those rules? I don't know.
Well, now that he's made himself a member of the PGA Tour, you have to play at least 15, and he's now the golden-haired boy and probably getting paid very well to be the spokesperson.
Okay, this week's event. We get started with the John Deere Classic. I think they should rename this event and call it the John Deere Irregular because that's the best word I can come up with.
Well, it's got to be the Nobody Classic. And what I'm shocked at, I mean, this just goes to show how spoiled the PGA are, that this is still 1,270,000 for first prize, and it's not big enough for them. I mean, to look at that field, there are people in this field like John Senden. He can't even get a start on the Champions Tour. Is playing in this event.
Who Weekly's playing?
Yeah, they've trying everyone to get the field, to just get a full field. I mean, that's shocking to me. And you know what? This just goes to prove what I've been saying all along about the Live Tour and the PGA. They should have allowed this to happen and not be fighting it every inch of the way, because nobody plays John Deere anyway.
Yeah, this is what you get.
And it's okay for him to go play the Irish Open. So what's the difference?
Now, we're going to handicap, obviously. That's why we're here this event. You might want to take the famous words from the classic movie War Games. The only winning move is not to play. Because when you get an event like this, you're going to have to go with the long shots. And as we've said before, Jared, it is really tough to predict an event of long shots. Really tough. It's good if you win because you're putting in a lot of money because the numbers are big. Yeah. But it's really hard because if you think it's tough to handicap an event with good golfers, you can imagine how tough it is to predict whether mediocre professional golfers are going to play well that week.
No, yeah, I mean, to me, the majors are the easiest tournaments to handicap because, realistically, there's only 20 to 30 guys that can win those. A tournament like this, 75% of the field could realistically win. I think it's a course that, any type of player can win. It's going to be a low score. It's probably going to be something in the 20s for the winner. Yeah. It's going to be a birdie fest. It kind of just turns into a putting contest, like who gets a hot putter. So it's definitely tough to predict. And to me, if you look at the field, like once you get past Webb, maybe Adam Hadwin, like to me, from 20 to 1 to 150 to 1. There's very little difference between those players. That's why most of my picks are, pretty deep long shots this week.
Yep, same here.
Did you notice how all of them? We all had such totally different picks, and normally we're close.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. That's what we got. Here's another funny one. Because the top ranked player that was supposed to play this week was Daniel Berger, and what's funny about it is that earlier this year, Daniel Berger signed a sponsorship deal with John Deere.
Oh, and he's not playing?
And he's not playing because he's got some injury or something like that.
That's not good.
How about that?
That's not good.
Yeah. I mean, that must be a serious injury for him. I think John Deere, they're going to be like, okay, well, you better not play again to the Open Championship.
Right.
And you might even want to skip that. I don't know how much money he's made, but deals like that's got to be what? I mean, that could be a $500,000, few $1 million deal, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely, depending on how big the logo is, and if he's doing golf bag and stuff.
Probably a few million. Okay. So, by the way, the top ranked player in this field, Jan, care to predict?
It's probably Simpson or
yes, Simpson.
Adwin, maybe.
Do you know what Simpson's rank is?
50 something.
Yeah, 58th.
Wow.
Top ranked player is Webb Simpson, 58th. So
he is the top ranked player
in this field. Yes.
Wow.
Yep.
Isn't that amazing?
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's the worst field I can remember since I really started following golf like this.
It's the worst field that's not like an alternate, because you were saying off the air, Jared, the Barracuda is going to be next week, correct?
Yeah, it's an alternate event to the Scottish.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's going to be the same field.
Event.
Yeah, yep.
That's amazing to me. One thing that Phil always used to say is that Phil would have been playing this event because he has a thing where he said he always plays the weak fields. And then because everybody plays, all the top players play the strong ones, right? Yeah. They all play the majors, they all play the big money ones. And then it's hard to even get in the top 10. But if you play all the weak fields, like usually the weeks before the majors or the weeks after the majors, you've got your game ready and you can get a top 10 get your money up and maybe get lucky enough to win. I'm shocked that some big names aren't playing.
All right.
But they'll have to next year because you can't miss a tournament more than 1 year in a row.
That's true. So maybe there'll be a big Travelers type field in the John Deere next year. Okay, now before we go through this, I'm going to go with Jared's top 10 lists of this week. We're going to start with top 10 strokes gained at this golf course, right? Is that it? Yep.
Correct. Yep.
Over the last 4 years. And Lucas Glover's at the top. He's the defending champ. No big names, of course, but you do have Zach Johnson at the bottom of the list. But who stuck out? Was it Shank? Because I know he's on your list.
Yeah, Shank has a 4th and a 6th here the last 2 times. Glover, like you said, won last year. Dylan Fratelli, he's 4th on this list. He won here a few years ago. Yeah, but again, I mean, this is top 10 strokes gained at this course in this field.
Yeah,
it's not including everyone. So yeah, it's a bunch of nobodies. These are the guys that have played well here.
And then we've got top 10 strokes gained on easy golf courses the last 2 years. What's considered an easy course?
So I'm not sure. That's a Fantasy National stat. I'm not exactly sure how they define it. I'm sure it's something to do with the average score to par.
Like in the 20s.
Again. Yeah. I'm sure this is going to be defined as an easy course.
Yeah.
So I looked at that this week. I also just looked at who the best birdie makers are in this field, because I think that's going to be important. You're going to need to make a whole lot of birdies to win this week.
Who was that?
Give me a second. I'd have to pull it back up again.
All right. And
so the top birdie makers, Cameron Davis, who is my top pick. This is top birdie makers over the last 2 years in this field. So it's Cam Davis, Charlie Hoffman, Mav McNeely, Patton Kazire, Emiliano Grillo, Lance O'Griffin, and Peter Malnati. That's your top 10.
Wow.
All right. I think the only name I hear, Kazire I've got on my list. I don't know if Glanto Griffin's on your list, Jared.
Correct.
You know that.
Mav's on my list.
Who's that?
Maverick
McNeely. Okay. Let's go through. And so you got Hadwin and Simpson as the favorites. And we've talked about this before too, Jared, is when you get these really weak fields, and we're simpatico on this, you have to stay away from these favorites, especially the heavy favorites. And not just because the odds, but also, especially for a guy like Adam Hadwin, when is he ever a favorite in a golf event? So you're telling me that he doesn't feel that?
He won Valspar one. He's only won one.
Yeah, he's only won one event.
He only has one win, yeah.
And he's a favorite of a golf event, or near favorite. So
yeah, someone's got to be the favorite. That's what it comes down to, and it's going to be Hadwin, Webb in this field. Yeah, Webb's a guy I was on last week. He is playing better. He has gained strokes off the tee and on approach in 5 straight measured events now. So he had kind of been slumping, but the ball striking's back.
Yeah.
So he's trending up. I think he's the most likely winner this week. But it's tough for me to bet him at the number he's at.
Yeah, this is Jan's second pick. He hasn't played here since 2010, but he has improved all 3 appearances here. So that's something. And like you said, he's got 3 top 30s over his last 4 events on the season, 13th last week. So Jan, he's your second choice.
Yeah, and he's such a good putter. He's got a great short game. So if he gets that putter hot, he can run the tables with it on the green.
And we all stayed away from Hadwin at 10-1. And we really all stayed away from some of these. Well, we stayed away from Bezuidenhout. Now, Bezuidenhout, maybe he could pull a Dylan Fratelli, because Dylan Fratelli actually won here in his first appearance, another South African, just a couple of years ago. So, and he does have 2 top 15s in his last 4, but as one of the top choices, it's just, we can't go that route. Next up at 22-1. Now, Charles Howell was on one of your lists, Jared. Nobody took Howell this week, but, he should be there fantasy-wise. He has made 12 of 13 cuts, 9 top 25s. So he's played well here over his career, and he's got 5 top 35s in his last 7 events on tour, including a 4th at the Texas Open. But the other player at 22-1 is Jan's third choice, Denny McCarthy. So Jan, you went with McCarthy. He's missed a cut here the last 2 years, but he was 11 under 3 years ago. He's coming off a miscut last week. Prior to that, he had that 7th at the U.S. Open and 5th at Memorial. So what about McCarthy?
It seems like he plays in, he has 1 or 2 really good tournaments, and then he kind of misses the cut. And I tried to pick a lot of guys that are young because they can go for a lot of birdies, and they're trying to prove themselves. His record of top 10s is pretty good. He's got 14 top 10s this year, so I really think he's he's ready to get to the next step. And so he was one. I like the fact that Memorial's a hard golf course. He finished top 5 there, and I think he was top 10 in the Open. So he's on a streak, and the fact that it's a weak field, he might be able to make a change. And plus, I don't know where he is on the FedEx Cups, but remember, this is the last event for the qualifying, isn't it? Like there's only like 3 more events left or something before they go into the playoffs. So it's really important to move up, and especially with half the field gone, the top players. This is a big one to make a big move in the FedEx Cup.
Yeah, it's they're running out of time. Okay, next up at 25-1 is actually 2 more players that are on your list, Jan. So this is all Jan early. Jan's going to take all the top contenders. So
I didn't realize that at the time.
That's okay. Hey, that's the reason why we all have a mixed field. Theegala is your top choice at 25-1. McNeely is your 5th choice at 25-1. Theegala will be playing here for the first time. It's only his 49th pro event. He started the year 376th in the world, and now he's 66th. McNeely, 18th year last year, hasn't had a top 10 in his last 9 on the season. But you've got Theegala, and I'm sure it's because he's a hot player right now, and also McNeely.
Well, Mav is, as you know, I mean, I like him because he's gone back to his old coach, and so he's taken a week. He's been really working hard on his game back in California. So I think he's going to get comfortable again because he was really struggling with his golf swing, and now it's coming back. So the fact that I'm glad to hear that he was in the Jared's list of birdies, because I always thought that his putting was a bit of a weakness. So that means that obviously it isn't. And he's, I think he's ready to break out. I mean, he was, the top player and when he was at college at Stanford, and he's had some streaks, and I think he's getting close. I think he's going to win this year.
Yeah, Theegala is, and McNeely is normally like in a regular field, he could be as high as 80 to 100-1. He's like one of those players, and since you think he might win this year, that's one of the things we'll talk about maybe in the next week or two. Is maybe I'm going to get, because I think it's because I do it. And I'm sure you may do it too, Jared, where you always have like several players where you say, you know what, it may not be this week. I don't care. I'm not even going to look at numbers or anything like that. But I just got a feeling, and Theegala might have even been that player, and he maybe still is on a regular field, where you just say, you know what, if I just put $1 or $2 on these guys every week, I feel like I can. Maybe he wins on the right week when he's 150-1, and so I will probably put a nice list together in the next week or two of maybe 3 or 4 names that we would all just put $1 or $2 on.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
Yeah, the only problem with guys like Theegala and like Cam Young and Davis Riley is if they pile up enough like top 5s and top 10s, you lose the good numbers on them.
That's
Cam Young's 30-40-1
every
week
not
now. Davis
anymore.
Riley. Yeah. So that's kind of what stinks is if you don't get that win before those good finishes come, you kind of lose the value.
Yeah, it's got to be guys. Again, even players in this field that'll probably be like a post on, definitely in the hundredths. Except this week. Okay, next, and again, Theegala is a no-brainer in a way that how hot he is. The question's going to be whether or not he can rebound, and because he's now got, now he's what, 5th at Memorial, almost won last week. So can he do it again? That's asking a lot, but maybe he gets off to a good start. The field is definitely weak enough that he might be able to pull it off. So, I mean, I was considering taking him, so I'm glad Jan did. So,
he hits the ball a mile. He's a good putter. This is a course where you can get under.
He just so far in his career, he's had trouble stringing 2 good events together in a row. Yeah. He's just been inconsistent, but I mean, he has 2 top 5s in his last 3 now, so maybe he's starting to figure that out. I would love to see him win this week.
Okay, 35-1. We have a bunch of players, including we have a few of our picks. Let's start first of all, Jared. You have Scott Stallings as your second choice at 35-1, and we'll start there because Stallings has 4 top 25s and 9 appearances. 5th in 2017. He was 8th last week, and not too long ago, 4th at the Charles Schwab.
Yeah, Stallings has gone 4th, miscut, 8th in his last 4 events. That's actually the kind of profile I want to bet, because I don't care if you miss the cut. I want to see those spike weeks where you are in contention.
In this field,
you look at
yes.
In this field, yeah, and you look at Stallings' stats in his 2 high finishes lately. He's gained over 7 strokes on approach in both of those events, the ones he finished 4th and 8th. So he's had really hot iron weeks, which is what you're going to need to win this event. Like you said, Greg, he's had good finishes at this event. He's gained off the tee and approach in 5 straight outings here. So it's definitely a course he likes. And he has 2 PGA Tour wins. I mean, the last one came in 2014. But, I mean, at least he has won before on the PGA Tour, which is, not something you can say about a lot of the guys in this field.
Yeah, matter of fact, speaking of winners, how about this? 5 of the last 7 first-time winners of this event made the John Deere Classic their maiden PGA Tour victory. That includes Bryson DeChambeau and Jordan Spieth.
Oh, wow.
So
that was when Bryson was skinny. He was probably 50 pounds lighter than he is now.
So keep an eye on that.
Well, isn't that when Jordan holed out or he out of the bunker?
Yes. And so again, 5 of the last 7 have made this their first PGA Tour win.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. So that's something definitely to keep an eye on. And by the way, ranking-wise, the last 7 first-time winners have an average world ranking of 165.
Whoa.
With only one of the last 7 first-time winners ranking inside the top 100. Ryan Moore in 2016 was ranked 59th. So
that's amazing.
A couple of interesting trends. Tells you, if you haven't won before in a PGA Tour or your ranking's over 100, are the guys you want to take. All right. Also in this list, Patrick Rodgers is Jan's first alternate. So what about Patrick Rodgers? And look, I was thinking about Rodgers as well. The only thing was the odds for a guy like Rodgers, because he's never won a PGA Tour event. But he does have 5 top 35s in his last 6 and is coming off a 31st at the U.S. Open, Jan.
Well, I mean, he should have won by now. I mean, it's one of those guys that he one of those top Stanford players, and he was a top college kid. I mean, he won in 2016. He was the top, college. He won like 16 or no, I think he won like 11 college events. But I think he's really got something to prove. Plus, he can shoot low. He shot 61. So I feel like anyone that can do that, and it's time for him to break out.
Yes.
I mean, he's fiddled around. Some people take a little longer to kind of get used to playing on tour and being on tour. It's time for him to do something. So I look for him to, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen here.
Yeah, and Jared, that's the thing that the odds concern me a little bit, but I just felt that because he's playing really well for him, but I just figured, look, now you're in a field like this, you have to take advantage. But usually Patrick Rodgers, he plays in a lot of bad fields like this and hasn't been able to take advantage. So.
Yeah, it's true. The ball striking has been good lately, though. The putting's been good. It really what kills him is around the green. But that, I don't think that's going to be a major factor at this course, again, just because it's such an easy course. So I considered Rodgers. I just kind of went Stallings over him, but I think he's definitely a good bet.
Also, Jason Day, Jan's second alternate at 45-1. She's always going to throw an Aussie in her list. First time Day's playing here since 2011. He does have 2 top 15s and 5 appearances. Coming off a miscut last week. You just never know with Jason Day whether or not he's healthy, and most of the time he's not.
No, but he is healthy right now, and he's got something to prove. I mean, he's won 12 times. So it's not like he doesn't know how to win. Oh, yeah. He's just got to get it there. I mean, he started off the year, I thought he was going to finally break out and have another good year. But he made the announcement when I was in Australia that said he's going to be number 1 again. Oh. So he's kind of said you hear it all the time, rededicated. But he's working pretty hard physically to be ready, with all of his injuries. I know he had that vertigo, which was a big problem as well. But I think he's got something to prove, because everybody thinks it's over. But he's only 34. I mean, that's what you forget. He's been on tour a long time.
I hope he does too. He's just as good for the game.
It's kind of crazy that Jason Day is 45-1 in this field.
Yeah,
it just shows you.
So I think just that alone makes him a good bet, I think, at that number.
Well, and he needs to make FedEx. He needs to make that FedEx cutoff. So the players that are playing, that's a huge, this is the one opportunity to really get yourself into the playoffs because there is such a weak field.
Just so you know how difficult this game is, I don't know if you guys remember, you probably do, and maybe not to a specific moment, but back in 2015 when he won 5 times, including the PGA Championship, and he went into that stretch at the end of the season, winning 3 out of 4. He won the Barclays and the FedEx. He won the BMW Championship. And there was a moment, I don't remember, it was one of those events where he made some like 30-foot putt or something like that. And he kind of just like had that shrug to the rest of the guys that were there, like, I can't miss. It's crazy, but I just can't miss right now. And it's just not that he was showing off, but it's just like, I'm just so hot. I can't. And he's in the zone of zones. And it just shows you just a few years later, he's just fallen on hard times. It's incredible.
Well, he's a great putter. He's got a really good short game. So his swing has been a little off. I mean, they said he got too far with his back, favoring his back. He got too far under it and started hitting it sideways. So I don't know whether he's changed coaches or whether he's worked on his swing. His stats don't look good, though.
No, they don't. Long with someone I was considering as well. He's got 6 top 35s in his last 8 this year, Jared. And he's played decently enough here the last his only 2 appearances, but also the odds were a little bit too low.
Yeah, Long was on my radar too. It's just the odds. Not a bet I'm loving to get him at the number he's at. What is he, 35, 40 to 1?
35, yeah.
Yeah, yep.
And we just want to remind everybody too that if you have any player questions, fantasy, wagering, props, whatever, you can leave a comment on the channel and we'll get back to you right away because we know there's only like a short window, 24, 36 hours before the event takes place. And it could be even during the event. If you have any live wagering questions, just leave your questions or comments on the channel page, the description area, and we will definitely get back to you. So now we get to one of my picks. And this happens to also be one of Jan's picks. Nick Hardy, who I didn't even know who he was a month ago. But Nick Hardy ranked 235th in the world. He's coming off in his last 4 events, 8th last week, 14th at the U.S. Open, a 35th place, and a runner-up in a KFT event. He does not have a pro win, so that works. But the other thing that really put him over the top for me was he's not only a born Illinois kid, but he graduated from the University of Illinois. So come on.
Home game.
A home game for Nick Hardy. So if you're ever going to take Nick Hardy, you're going to do it this week, right? Because I know Jared was considering it, and Jan, you have him as your 4th pick, and I just said I'm going all the way at the top.
I think you're right on that because I actually think he's probably my favorite. I mean, Theegala, you got to go by the fact that he's done well and he's playing well, but Nick has got to win. I mean, his stats are unbelievable. He's only 26 years old. I think it's time.
And you were thinking about it, Jared?
I was, yeah. He missed a couple months with an injury, and then as we said, he came back the last 3 events: 35th at the Canadian Open, 14th at the U.S. Open, 8th at the Travelers. And the ball striking's been awesome off the tee and approach. He's been gaining. He's been putting it well. He's been doing everything right now. He's definitely trending that direction. Just a guy I'm not sure he's ready to win yet, but in this field, it's good as good of a chance as he's going to get, I think, right now.
And by the way, one of those players at 45 to 1 is like one of those players that I probably throw a buck on every week kind of guy. That's John Huh, because he was a talented guy years ago, and then I forget what happened to him. It must have been injuries. I don't remember, Jared, but he was away really for a while. His game was just completely off, and now he's back to playing well again. And matter of fact, he's got 3 straight top 25s coming into here. But once again, at 45 to 1, I was like, I'd rather take him when he's back to being 150 to 1.
I agree.
Okay, now another.
Because I played with John this year in the celebrity event.
Oh, okay.
And he's a really nice guy, and he said he was working with Kevin Na on his confidence. So.
All right, 2 more.
See.
2 more players at 45 to 1 on our list, and one of them happens to be Jared's top pick, and he's an Aussie. So Cam Davis, is your number one pick. Explain yourself, young man.
Yeah, he's number one in my model, so I'm going to roll with it. He also won the Rocket Mortgage last July, and I bet him in that field, so I have a soft spot for Cam Davis.
That's true.
As we
I know
as we mentioned before, he's tops in this field in birdies over the last 2 years, so I like that. He can fill it up, he can go low. Great. I mean, he's super long off the tee. He's ninth in this field in strokes gained off the tee over the last 6 months. He's 25th in approach. He's also a really good putter on bent grass greens, which is what we're on this week. He's ninth best in this field. So I think all the ingredients are there. Again, to me, Cam Davis is just as good, if not more talented than, those guys we talked about that are 20, 25 to 1.
Well, obviously I'm rooting for him. I mean, he won. He kind of won out of the blue when he won before on a weak field. Yep. So maybe he'll do it again.
All right. And then I have my second choice at 45 to 1, Chez Reavie, who has 3 top 20s in 9 appearances, a 5th in 2011. He has 4 top 30s in his last 5 events, so he's playing well. He was 8th last week, so he's trending in the right direction. And I also looked up as far as his wins, he's won twice on the PGA Tour, and his wins in 2 PGA Tour wins, July and late June. So it's his time of year. Yeah. So Chez Reavie. What about Chez Reavie? What do you know about Chez Reavie, Jan?
Well, you know what? He's been out there quite a while. I mean, and like you said, I mean, if he's some players, you can always see some players like it in the spring when they've had a winter off and they kind of warm up. And I loved playing in the summertime because I liked the heat and I felt like I was riding I'd been playing a lot and it didn't have to spend so much time working on my game. I could just play. So he's got that going for him that he likes the heat. Where is he from?
He's an American. I don't know specifically where, though. What was that? What did you say?
I didn't say anything.
Oh, no. I thought maybe you.
He's from Kansas.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so there you go. He likes the heat. That's good. That's why he likes it. Because I'm playing in the Senior Championship, the LPGA Senior Championships in Kansas in July. So they said get ready for the heat. So
okay. All right. Now we get to some others in this 55 to 1 category, including my third choice at 55 to 1, Cameron Champ. And he was 11th last year here at 14 under par. And how about this? I looked at, because he's got 4 missed cuts coming in here. But I looked up and I found out that last year, before finishing 11th here, he had 4 missed cuts. And
then he won.
And then he won
the next week.
the next week. Yep. So I figured, all right, I'm not going to worry about the 4 missed cuts. By the way, just like Reavie, he's won 2 of his 4 pro events in July. So I figured this is a good week. And Champ's got the winning pedigree in him. He's like one of those, one hit every year wonder guys that can just come out of nowhere. And you can kind of feel confident that if he's in contention, usually when he's in contention, he wins because he's not in contention very often.
Well, because he hits the ball a million miles. And when you get in contention, then you start being smart. You might not hit your driver. And then I always feel like the most pressure is coming down the stretch when you're trying to make the cut. But when you're leading or you're in contention, that's not as much pressure as far as I'm concerned. It's when you're struggling and to try to make a cut and stay in there for the weekend to work on your game and make some money. So if he makes the cut, he probably is going to play well, and he bombs it, so he can make a bunch of birdies.
Yeah, he's definitely the kind of boomer bust player you want to be making outright bets on. And I'm looking at the stats right now too. He's just putted horribly these last 4 events. He's actually gained off the tee and on approach in 3 of the 4. So it's just been the putter that's been letting him down. So if he can just turn that around, I think as you alluded to, Greg, he's probably one of the 10 most talented players in this field.
Yes. And as you've said before too, with the putting, you can get hot in a week, and that's probably when he wins. He gets hot on the putter.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, at 65 to 1, nobody took your boy Svensson. I was surprised you didn't take Svensson because he's made 5 straight cuts.
Yeah.
And he finished 18th here a couple years ago.
I like him at shorter courses, and I like getting him at 250 to 1.
Yeah, that's true. So, not at 65.
All right, exactly.
I went with Laird as my top alternate at 70-1. He was in contention last week, 13th. He has been pretty solid here in 3 appearances. So I went with Laird as my number 1 alternate at 70-1. And at just around the same distance, you have 60-1 Shank, Jared. And I was thinking about Shank as well because he was 4th here last year, 6th the year before that. He's a combined 32 under par in the last 2 years on this golf course. So Shank has to be in your consideration this week.
Wow.
Yeah, good course history, and he comes in playing pretty well. 26th at the Memorial, 24th at the U.S. Open after Monday qualifying to get into the U.S. Open. So he's playing well. He did miss the cut at Travelers last week, but he actually gained off the tee on approach and around the green last week. He just lost 3.4 strokes putting. It was just the putter that let him down. So I think he is, he's striking it well. And again, it's a course he's had success at. So 60-1, I'll take a shot on him.
80-1 is my 4th choice, Patton Kizzire. We mentioned him. He's on one of the lists. Kizzire only has 1 top 20 this year and was 64th last week, but he does seem to play his best in these types of fields. And matter of fact, that's probably why he's in one of your lists. And he's played well on this golf course. 3 top 30s in 3 events, including 11th last year at 14 under par. So he's just one of those players that I just, if you're going to take a guy like that in a field like this is what you do. That's why Kizzire, I thought, was a pretty good hit or miss type of guy this week.
Yeah, 9th best on this course over the last 4 years, and then he was 4th best in that birdie stat we looked at.
Yeah, and then you also at 80-1 went with David Lipsky, who's really made more of a name on the European tour. Right. But now he's playing over here.
Yeah, he has 2 wins on the Euro Tour, so you like that he has some winning experience. He's popped a few times this season on the PGA Tour. He finished 7th at Corrales, and he finished 6th at the Mexico Open. He's missed a cut in his last 2 times out, but again, that's mostly been due to a cold putter. I think a lot of the guys I picked this week haven't been putting it well lately. I think if that turns around for Lipsky, I think his ball strike is good enough. He's 3rd in this field in strokes gain approach over the last 3 months, so his irons have been really good lately.
Good.
And by the way, Sam Ryder, I was thinking about. He was my last cutout at 80-1. He was runner-up here 3 years ago. He's played well here over his career, and he was 35th last week. So Ryder was just one of those shot-in-the-dark type of guys I was thinking of. And then how about the old guys? Steve Stricker at 80-1 and Zach Johnson at 100-1. So Stricker's playing this event, which makes sense. I mean, he's just going to keep coming here as long as he can compete. He's made 14 of 15 cuts on this golf course. He's got 8 top 15s. And, of course, he won 3 straight from 2009 to 2011. So this is not only a hometown kind of or home area type of event for Stricker, Jan, but it has to be his best venue.
Well, and plus the other thing is, I mean, it is nice. He does have the crowd behind him, but he has such an amazing short game. His putting is so good that, and he for him not to get up and down every single time, everybody's in shock when he does it. So I just don't know how low he can go at this stage. You don't have to go that low on the Champions Tour. It depends on how long they make the golf course.
And he may not be a bad fantasy player. You're looking for someone just to kind of be in the running, but still very tough that Steve Stricker never won a major. Sort of reminds me almost of like a Lee Westwood type. That not a great elite player, but a very good player that had opportunities to win majors and just never did.
Yeah, that's the thing. He never really had anything that stood out. He just doesn't usually make big mistakes like he did on Saturday last week. But he came back and actually shot low on a really hard golf course at Saucon Valley.
Yeah, so he's coming in.
So he's obviously playing well.
Yeah, he's coming in a good feeling about his game. Zach, by the way, has made 16 of 19 cuts and 16 of his last 17 on this golf course, with 13 straight, and he's got 10 top 25s, 7 top 5s, 3 runner-ups, and just 1 win.
Wow.
You know when Zach Johnson's last win was?
The Masters?
Well, that would have been a long time ago. The Open Championship in 2015.
Oh, I'm surprised it's that recent. because really he's a short hitter. He's good on majors. I mean, the year that he won the Masters, the greens were so rock hard that nobody could hold the green, so they had to lay up on holes like 15 and 13. Remember how hard the greens were?
That was that crazy weather week where they was like, wasn't it like 50 or 60 degrees or something like that, and it was just frigid.
It was firm, and the scores weren't that low.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's the type to go low.
Okay, now as some of these other long shots, let's see. You have Jared Smotherman and Buckley as your alternates. So give us spill the beans on Smotherman and Buckley as your alternates.
Yeah, Smotherman and Svensson are like my two guys I like betting on here. Kind of young no-namers, but I think they both have talent. They're both great ball strikers. Svensson is Smotherman's American.
Oh, okay.
He's a Texas guy, I believe. He's a bomber. He's 6th in this field in strokes gained off the tee over the last 6 months, and he's 12th in strokes gained approach. He's been a bad putter on the PGA Tour for the most part, but he's gained on the greens in 4 of his last 5 now. So I don't know, maybe he's figuring that out. He's going to have to make some putts to win this tournament, but again, I think he's one of the better ball strikers in this field, and he's 110-1.
Wow.
And Buckley?
Well, the guy that won the one that won qualifying on Monday, didn't he shoot 61 to qualify? So that's that one I was going to have, but he was way down there. I think he was like
that name that you had on your list. I was like, who is this guy she's talking
about?
Yeah, no,
like,
I can't find this guy in the odds.
I had one of my friends, because they always say that qualifying for the tournament is so hard because they only take 2 and then 1 alternate to play, and he shot 61 to qualify. And he's got a pretty good little pedigree. I mean, he's been out there, on college. He hasn't done well on tour, but he hasn't gotten to play any events.
Let's see. Do you?
Nathan Petranzio.
Oh,
that's the right year. Nathan Petranzio.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Italian.
And he's had some really low rounds when he was at college.
What about that amateur last week?
That was cool.
Oh, that was amazing.
Yeah, yep.
Now, was he an amateur champ?
Wasn't he from Europe?
They were saying he's. They were saying I could have sworn he said
he went to college here. Yeah.
I mean, he has a Swedish-sounding last name. I don't know where he was born.
I thought they said he was either U.S. or junior amateur champ. I don't know. They said something. So he's got some big credentials. So, okay, Buckley.
Hayden Buckley, 14th at the U.S. Open, 2 starts back, and then 43rd at the Travelers last week. 3rd in this field in strokes gained off the tee over the last 6 months. He's gained off the tee in 7 straight. So really good driver. He's gained on approach in 3 straight. So kind of following my usual theme, just a good ball striker, and then hope he can get hot on the greens.
Wow, that is good. That's good stats.
My last 2 picks, Jan was considering this player as well. And that is Chesson Hadley. Hadley coming off a 5th place finish last week. He's played pretty well here 2 of the last 3 years. He does have a PGA win, 5 pro wins in all. So I figured, all right, if I'm ever going to take Chesson Hadley, this is the week to do it. And in a weak field, I'm getting 150-1.
Yeah.
And then also I put Matt Wallace as my second alternate at 130-1. And if you look at it, Wallace has made 4 straight cuts on tour. And let's not forget, back in 2019, he was the 30th ranked player in the world. Yeah. And he won 3 times over in Europe in 2018. He's got 10 pro wins to his name. And he shot a 66 on Sunday. So at 130-1, I think he's a lot better than that in this field, Jared.
I agree.
I used to bet Matt Wallace all the time. That must have been in 2019 when he was playing well. I'm not sure what happened to his game. But yeah, I mean, if you think he's rediscovered that previous form, he's one of the better players in this field.
Yeah, he's got a good personality out there, sort of like Tyrrell Hatton in a way on the golf course.
It's going to be interesting to watch and see what happens, who gets off to a good start. I didn't even study tee. Usually I'm studying tee times and weather because that's important, but I haven't done that this time.
Yeah, probably a good idea. By the way, as far as some long shots, Scott Brown is 130 to 1 in that area, just kind of in the same area as Hadley. Do you know whether Scott Brown has ever won a PGA Tour event?
Did he ever win? Did he ever win the team event? I know him and Kisner usually do well in that team event.
No, he did not win the team. Well, he might have.
Okay.
He wasn't on the list, but he might have because it doesn't qualify.
He has one. He has one. He won Puerto Rico.
No, I know he won. It wasn't a question. It was a trivia question.
He has one.
And the reason that was interesting.
Puerto Rico is another weak field.
It's a weak field, but it was interesting because the very next year, Chesson Hadley won Puerto Rico. So. But get this, Scott Brown has 7 top 25s in 9 appearances on this golf course with 3 top 10s and 2 top 5s. So, the whole thing about whether or not you go with a player, how they're playing or on the golf course. So just keep that in mind. And Ryan Moore has made 10 of 11 cuts at this golf course with 7 top 25s, a runner-up last year, and a win in 2016. Now, he's made 4 straight cuts, which is something that he's only done once since the start of the 2020 season. So maybe his game is starting to get right at the time when he's going up and playing a golf course that he's as good and more comfortable than as any other golf course in the country. But
what are his odds?
130 to 1.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, his golf swing, it's very unusual. He goes back with the club outside his hands, which is unusual, and he doesn't usually hit it very long.
What happened to Ryan Moore? Does anybody know? Is it injuries?
Well, that golf swing, when you've got such an unusual golf swing, you're either going to get an injury from it or you're going to get passed by the guys that bomb it.
And then a couple other players of note that and you could throw some in there too, Jared, before we let go. Bill Haas, another player that's lost his game over the years. But he's made 10 of his last 11 cuts, and he's got 2 top 30s in his last 3. He's 200 to 1. And
how old is he?
How old is Bill Haas? Is he in his 40s yet?
40s.
Yeah,
he's got to be.
And then
seems like he's been around a long time.
Yep.
Andrew Landry, 300 to 1, has 2 top 10s in 4 trips here. 5th 2 years ago. Get this, he won the Amex in January of 2020, and his previous 5 events were all missed cuts. He won the Texas Open in 2018. He had a 42nd and 4 missed cuts before that. And in the other 2 KFT events he won, he came into the event with missed cuts. I mean, this is just he's kind of like a miniature Cameron Champ. That he just, the only time he ever wins is when he's in contention, kind of guy.
You can make a case. You can make a case for any of these guys in this field.
I know, right?
That's true. Like do or die. When once they make the cut, they're off and running.
Yeah, right.
Because you do. I mean, sometimes you do play a little careful, just trying to make the cut, not doing anything stupid, but you still have to make birdies. And then once you make the cut, the pressure's off. Then you can go make money.
Well, interesting. Unlike last week, remember we were talking about the leaders had a hard time closing. And by the way, Schauffele would have been on that list again if it wasn't for Theegala on 18. Right. But 10 of the all-time 21 winners on this golf course started the final round with the lead. So you want the lead at TPC Deere Run in the final round. And only one player at TPC Deere Run began the final round outside the top 10. That's 1 of 21. And it happened last year. That was Lucas Glover, started the final round in 12th place.
Wow.
So
he got in before the pressure.
I guess. Maybe that's because there's a lot of bad players in these fields. And those players aren't used to handling pressure very well. But it's crazy.
There's a lot of guys that have that. I mean, that's the way Theegala, or I'm even thinking Zalatoris is going to win from behind somewhere, and then that'll be once you've done it once. I mean, look at Scotty.
That's what happened to Scotty. Yep. So next week it's the Scottish Open, and then it's the Open Championship.
Where is it? Where's the Scottish?
We don't know, do we, Jared?
I could tell you in 10 seconds.
I'm sure wherever it is, Jan's played the golf course.
It is at the Renaissance Club in North Berwick.
Oh,
Is that
I
a no,
played
Jan?
Berwick,
Did
but
you
I
finally
don't
find a
think-
place you haven't played?
Well, I'm thinking that I played it, but it wasn't called that at the time.
Could be.
Because I played Berwick, so.
Okay. So that should be a really good field. As Jared said, it's a PGA Tour event now, which is awesome. So we should have a really good field prior to the Open Championship. So the next couple of weeks should be a lot of fun. When's the next major for the LPGA, Jan? Do you know?
Let's see. It'll be the
Is it late July?
It'll be the British, and they play the British, and then they play the Swedish.
Oh, that's right.
The Swiss Open is a major too.
The Swiss Open. All right.
Swiss Open is a major.
And we talked about this a few months ago. How do you not have a Asian major championship? Come on.
No, I know.
The way
I agree. That's a good point.
What are they waiting for? Very strange. All right, as usual, great job, Jan. Appreciate your time as always. Jared, you too. And I'll talk to you guys next week.
All right.
Can't wait.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks.